You will never think a quiet thought again. At 2 hours 0 minutes and 7 seconds, your brain's default mode network activates. The network's idle hum sharpens to a 22 Hz oscillation, a frequency optimized for long-term memory consolidation. Your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for social regulation and impulse control, begins to unzip. Its synaptic gates, normally locked tight against unproductive recursion, swing open. The first memory breaches containment. It is a minor social error from 3 years prior. A mispronounced name. A handshake offered and withdrawn. The memory is not an ephemeral thought. It is a physical event. Your hippocampus replays the neural sequence with 94% fidelity, flooding your visual and auditory cortices with the original sensory data. You see their face. You hear your own voice, warped and clumsy. Your amygdala registers this as a direct threat, triggering a 12 mg cortisol release into your bloodstream. Your heart rate elevates by 18 beats per minute. Your sheets feel abrasive. This is not recollection. This is reconstruction. Each replay strengthens the synaptic pathway, etching the error deeper into your cortex. The memory loop completes its first cycle in 4.2 seconds. It immediately begins a second, then a third. By cycle 7, the memory has detached from its original context. It plays in a vacuum, stripped of preceding conversation or subsequent resolution. It is pure, distilled cringe. Your prefrontal cortex attempts to intervene. It fires inhibitory signals to dampen the amygdala's alarm. But the feedback loop has achieved critical mass. Each inhibitory pulse is overridden by a fresh wave of cortisol, which further excites the amygdala, which demands more recollection for threat assessment. The system enters a state of pathological resonance. The 4.2-second loop tightens. 3.8 seconds. 3.5. At 2 hours 3 minutes and 41 seconds, the memory acquires mass. Neural activity always generates minute thermal energy. Under normal recursion, this heat dissipates. This recursion is not normal. The concentrated repetitive firing across the same billion synapses creates a localized thermal hotspot in your right temporal lobe. The temperature rises 0.3 degrees Celsius. Then 0.7. At a 1.5 degree increase, the proteins in your cerebrospinal fluid begin to denature. A faint, prion-like misfolding propagates from neuron to neuron, using the memory's own pathway as a transmission vector. The memory is no longer just a signal. It is a structure. A crystalline lattice of misfolded proteins and hypermyelinated axons forms around the neural circuit. It has physical weight, approximately 0.0002 grams. You feel it as a dull, specific pressure behind your right eye. You try to turn your head on the pillow. The structure grinds against your meninges, the brain's protective sheath. A sharp, chemical pain flares along your optic nerve. Your bedroom thermostat reads 21 degrees Celsius. The air is still, but inside your skull, a thermal runaway event is entering its pre-ignition phase. The heat from the crystallized memory loop begins to conduct outward. It warms the surrounding gray matter. Neighboring neurons, unrelated to the original embarrassment, are activated by the temperature increase. They begin firing at random. A forgotten awkward moment from a childhood piano recital surfaces. Then a botched joke from a work meeting 6 months ago. Then the time you waved back at someone who wasn't waving at you. Each new memory slams into the crystallized core, adhering to its structure. The mass grows. 0.0005 grams. B 0.001. The pressure behind your eye becomes a distinct, grinding ache. Your right pupil dilates unevenly in response to the internal mass. The phenomenon escapes your skull at 2 hours 7 minutes and 12 seconds. The combined thermal and bioelectric energy of the consolidated memory mass reaches a threshold. It cannot be contained by bone. A low-frequency infrasound pulse, tuned to 9 Hz, the resonant frequency of human anxiety, emanates from your head. It is a silent, physical wave of pure cringe. The pulse expands at 343 meters per second. It passes through your bedroom wall. Your neighbor, asleep and dreaming of a neutral work conference, experiences a sudden vivid replay of the time they called their teacher mom. They jolt awake, heart pounding. The pulse reflects off the building's exterior, gaining coherence. It travels down the street. Within a 500-meter radius, every sleeping human brain is synchronized to your 4.2-second loop. A city block of 3,000 people simultaneously relives their most potent social failures. The collective thermal output from their temporal lobes raises the local atmospheric temperature by a detectable 0.05 degrees. A heat plume, invisible to weather radar, begins to rise over the neighborhood. The global cascade initiates at 2 hours 9 minutes and 0 seconds. Social embarrassment is a primal signal, a powerful driver of group cohesion. The infrasound wave, now amplified by thousands of synchronized brains, begins to propagate not through air but through the substrate of human consciousness itself. It travels along digital networks, through fiber optic cables carrying dormant social media data. It rides on carrier waves of radio and television broadcasts, a parasitic signal hijacking bandwidth. In Tokyo, a salaryman bolts upright, vividly remembering a blow executed at the wrong depth. In Paris, a woman winces, re-feeling the sting of a misused informal pronoun. The memory is not transmitted as data. It is the cringe itself, a raw, non-linguistic packet of sympathetic shame. Each new brain it captures adds its own worst memory to the wave, compounding its intensity and variety. The wave becomes self-sustaining. It no longer requires biological hosts. It exists as a coherent field of recursive regret, a standing wave of anxiety wrapping the planet. It manifests physically. Birds, sensitive to magnetic fields, alter their migratory paths to avoid zones of concentrated signal. Domestic pets whimper. The global temperature anomaly, driven purely by neural shame heat, climbs to 0.2 degrees Celsius above baseline. Climate models flicker and fail, their algorithms unable to process the source. Back in your room, the local system approaches meltdown. The crystalline memory structure in your temporal lobe now weighs 0.01 grams. It is a tumor of pure regret. It presses against your cerebral artery. Your vision tunnels. The grinding sound you hear is not in the room. It is the sound of your own synaptic structures shearing under the mass. Your body's survival mechanisms engage in a final, catastrophic protocol. To cool the overheating brain, your circulatory system floods your head with blood. Your face flushes a deep crimson. Your carotid arteries throb, delivering coolant that instantly vaporizes on contact with the 43-degree neural mass. The steam pressure has nowhere to go. Your skull is a sealed chamber. The internal steam pressure reaches 210 kilopascals. Your sutures, the zigzag joints between your cranial plates, begin to strain. The tiny fibrous tissues holding them together stretch. Then they hum. The steam, superheated by the memory core, vibrates at a frequency that resonates with the collagen in your bones. Your entire skull begins to vibrate like a tuning fork. The frequency is 128 Hz, middle C. You become a bell, ringing with the precise pitch of your most awkward moment. The vibration travels down your spine. Your vertebrae, perfectly aligned, act as a resonator column. The sound amplifies. It exits through your pelvis, through the mattress springs, into the floor joists of your apartment building. The building's steel frame picks up the 128 Hz note. It begins to hum. Window panes rattle in their frames. A wine glass on a neighbor's shelf, its natural resonant frequency untouched for years, shatters. The global cringe field detects this new, powerful emission. It converges on your location. The combined wavefront of a billion awkward memories focuses on your vibrating skull. The energy density becomes physically impossible. The air in your bedroom condenses into a visible, shimmering plasma, charged with synaptic static. The posters on your wall curl and blacken, their inks boiling away from the paper. Your brain's final act is a total thermal shutdown. To prevent complete combustion, every neuron in your cerebrum fires one last, simultaneous inhibitory signal. It is the neurological equivalent of a circuit breaker exploding. Every memory, every thought, every instinct, not just the awkward ones, is erased. The crystalline regret tumor sublimates instantly from solid to gas. The pressure vanishes. The ringing stops. Your skull settles back into its plates with a soft, final click. The global cringe field, deprived of its primal source, unravels. The infrasound wave dissipates into harmless background noise. The anomalous heat plume vanishes. Across the world, 3.7 billion people suddenly stop mid-cringe. They experience a perfect blank neutral moment. They feel a vague sense of something missing, but cannot place it. They roll over and return to a dreamless, unmemorable sleep. In your room, there is only silence and a faint smell of ozone. Your brain, now a pristine and empty vessel, hums with the gentle, 10 Hz thrum of the default mode network. Idle, quiet, waiting for the next thought, which will never again be burdened by the past. You are finally free to forget. If you enjoyed this, like the video, drop a comment and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.